of our guys up there is SF, Special Forces vet. And we have another one that's a retired staff sergeant, SF.
Let's put a scope on it and take a peek at it and see what we got.
That's the same kind of shit they've been doing their whole career. You know, now they're doing it here inside the United States. It's kind of a weird feeling.
Our group was the second group to enter Afghanistan.
Yeah, man. They're fucking coming. They need to lock and loaded, ready to go.
Hey guys, everybody spread out, get eyes open, get a good perimeter.
They light shit on fire, we can shoot on them, right?
Yep.
They're very fucking well. Hopefully they light shit on fire.
Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. We've got Kris Goldsmith back on. He runs Task Force Butler, an organization dedicated to tracking extremist organizations and holding their leaders accountable. They've got some impressive wins under their belt. This week is not an example of a win for anybody, certainly not for the country we both swore an oath to support and defend. Kris, I hate it when you're right, especially about things like this, but you called it. You told us that the worst of the worst were going to, well, they didn't just get pardons. They've been lionized. The Proud Boys had a victory parade through the streets of D.C. on Inauguration Day.
Yeah, I encourage people to go to whitehouse.gov and read the executive orders that just came out yourself. The one about the pardons for January 6th was pretty notable because it specifically named Enrique Tarrio, Stuart Rhodes, some of the most infamous terrorists in the United States. It specifically named each of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers who were convicted of seditious conspiracy. And it also granted a complete, full, and unconditional pardon to everyone else. It also ordered a complete cease and desist to the Department of Justice in ongoing investigations and prosecutions for those who were convicted for events related to January 6th. And let's be specific about this. Americans physically assaulted police officers for hours. They brought baseball bats and bear mace and hockey sticks and assaulted police officers with intent to kill them for hours for the purpose of killing members of Congress. And they have been granted a full, complete, and unconditional pardon. Jason Chansley, the guy with the crazy Viking hat, he went out and said that he's going to go buy a gun. That's his first response, is that he's going to buy a bunch of guns now that he's been pardoned.
One of the observations we made years ago in the making of the film was that the insurrectionists are going to realize that you don't actually need to break glass and beat cops to take over a government if you infiltrate the thinking of a movement. If you take over a political party, you do it without firing a shot. I think this week is evidence of that.
Yeah. What we saw start, or really come to a head at the Unite the Right neo-Nazi rally in 2017 in Charlottesville has effectively won. Like, that war has been won. There is a Groyper right now. This is one of the followers of Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi who had dinner with Trump a few years ago. And one of these Groypers is now the White House liaison for the Bureau of Prisons. So we have a neo-Nazi who works for the White House, whose job it is to make sure that all of the people who assaulted police officers on January 6th and tried to end our democracy are freed.
Is this the kind of overreach that will finally provoke the democratic antibodies that I still believe are in the system, that Americans just naturally hold in reserve for a moment like this? I mean, President Trump has issued over 1,000 executive orders. It's obvious to me that he's trying to get stuff past the American people as quickly as possible. But God, there has to be a breaking point, right?
Well, Steve Bannon said it best years ago, that his objective and Trump's objective is to flood the zone with shit.
Yeah.
If they flood the zone with propaganda, they're not trying to change minds. They're trying to monopolize our attention and energy to keep us from being effective. That's why on Substack yesterday, I posted an article about how people can take local responses to what's going on all the way up at the White House, right? All politics is local. And what I'm encouraging people to do is start local book clubs at bookstores and libraries. Your librarians, your local librarians are dying to have more people use that public service. And that is a physical location where you can go and meet with like-minded people. You can not only just educate yourself, but every opportunity where people are meeting like this, say your group grows to 10 people, a leader is going to arise out of that. Anytime that you take a group of people, someone's going to be the one who says, okay, I'm going to be the one who's, deciding what the next book is or how many chapters we're reading or what the venue is, right? And that level of leadership, that little first step of leadership puts somebody on the track to running for office. And it might not feel like that at the time, but think about your class president from high school. They're probably in some leadership position now, right? Because those little steps, those baby steps towards leadership create this pipeline. So the alt-right, the far right has had billionaires funding their leadership pipeline, and it has helped get Supreme Court justices elected. It helped to, help Donald Trump whitewash his reputation for half of the country, 60% of the country who voted for him or didn't care enough to vote. We need to start doing this local organizing, and people can read about it at my new Substack. Look for Kris Goldsmith on Offense.
We'll put a link in the show notes for sure. I've been doing a lot of thinking about your observation regarding philanthropy on the right. I should put philanthropy in air quotes versus philanthropy on the left. It is a totally different approach when you look at the leaders that have emerged on the right and how much coaching and grooming they received over the past decades. I mean, we've got case after case of this in Ohio, J.D. Vance being the prime example of someone who was identified very early on as someone with potential to lead this new right-wing wave, and was very successfully invested in by Peter Thiel and others. We don't have the same thing on the left, and I'm not sure it's as much a strategic difference as it is a difference in our constitutional lower C makeup. The right is investing because they know they're going to get a return, and a massive return in terms of tax cuts and things like that. The incentive on the left has to be different because, frankly, if leaders like you and me or people we believe in and care about make it into power, they're not going to deliver massive returns to their donors like the leaders on the right do. So it has to be something besides that financial ROI.
Well, let's be very specific. So I got out of the Army and got involved in activism for the first time around 2007. Back then, Pete Hegseth was like almost roughly my peer. He was an officer. I was enlisted, but he was this rabidly pro-war guy running Vets for Freedom, which became Concerned Veterans for America. I was involved in Iraq Veterans Against the War, and then kind of went to the anti-war stuff and more veteran advocacy. All of the people in the real veteran advocacy are still working for nonprofits and scraping pennies together. I am one of them. Yeah. Right. Pete Hegseth had the Koch brothers invest in him in a way that made him not have to think about paying the bills, not have to go out and beg for money. Right. My job is to hunt neo-Nazis. That's what I created Task Force Butler for. But as a CEO of a struggling baby nonprofit, I spend most of my time begging oligarchs for money. Right. Because that's just the way it works on the left. And we need to either end that, or people like me need to figure out a new way. Because, frankly, after doing this for 15, 16, 17 years, it's been exhausting. And to continue doing it for the rest of my life without, the support from the oligarchs that would put me on an even plane with somebody like Pete Hegseth, who we had similar origins. Like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with the now Secretary of Defense.
Hey everyone, it's Ken. As much as I love and appreciate all of you and how much you care about politics and the future of this country, I understand that sometimes you just need a break. We all do. Well, I could not be more excited to partner with Foreword Retreats to tell you about an upcoming writing retreat for anyone who wants to dive deep into the stories that make us who we are. And trust me, you will come back enriched and fulfilled and ready. So join two fantastic award-winning writing coaches, Anne-Marie Kelly and Phyllis Biffle-Elmore, in France this fall. We all have stories in our pockets about love and loss, heartache and grief. Let Phyllis and Anne-Marie help you put your stories on the page. Come together with a community of other writers and aspiring writers to search for answers and dismantle the roadblocks that stand in your way. What is the heart of your story? Why are you the only one who can tell it? You'll begin each morning writing in the seaside village of Arcachon, southwest of Bordeaux. Every afternoon, you'll be free to create, relax, and explore, and commune with fellow travelers. At the heart of this retreat is the practice of writing as a form of healing. This once-in-a-lifetime retreat is for women of all ages and experiences who long to write achingly beautiful prose in a transcendently beautiful place. You can find out more at forewordretreats.com, and be sure to include the code 25AK for $900 off this amazing writing retreat. That's code 25AK for $900 off. If you've ever longed to put your story on paper and just needed the right excuse and the right coaches, join this amazing team in Seaside, France this summer. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. Thanks. Did you know 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February? You can beat the odds with Lumen and improve your health. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even your stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. Take the next step to improving your health. Go to lumen.me/Ken to get 20% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Ken for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Well, the pitch I would make, and I know it's idealistic and possibly even naive, but there has to be some value in a return that isn't just financial, in a return that strengthens democracy or delivers to your kids and grandkids a country that respects the rule of law. I don't know how we can make that case. It hasn't been working, because the other argument, which is so easily made on the right, invest in me, and when I make it into power, you're going to see your portfolio double or triple. How much more? You might not know the number off the top of my head, but I think I have a rough guess. How much more is Elon Musk worth today than he was the day before the election? It's hundreds of billions of dollars. Yeah. It's more money than, most of the United States put together paying taxes would ever see. He has amassed more wealth than entire states' GDPs. That is very significant. And I think the best way that I've seen this done to kind of think about how much wealth he has amassed is, I wish I knew the creator's name. There's this guy on TikTok who uses a grain of rice to represent a certain amount of money.
And he shows you the piles that people like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump have amassed. And when you see the visualization, because human beings, we are not good once numbers go past 1,000. We really have no idea what that looks like. It's hard for us to comprehend. But when you see a massive pile of rice the size of the queen bed that I'm standing next to, you get to understand like, oh, this actually shouldn't be a thing. There is no human being on the planet who creates this much value. And that's what it is, right? So unless and until we figure out a way to stop oligarchs from amassing more wealth than entire states, our democracy is going to have a really hard time actually following the will of the people.
Yeah.
Because someone with that much wealth can just drown the rest of us out. Again, the purpose of propaganda is not to change someone's mind. It is to take away your attention and to keep you busy. And Elon Musk buying Twitter, that's exactly what he did for what used to be the global public square.
It's amazing how wrong everybody got his motives and the way he was throwing money at things that seemed worthless. He may have lost every penny of his $40 billion investment on Twitter. But if he is able to get someone like Donald Trump elected and his wealth as an indirect result of that, or maybe a direct result of that, goes up several $100 billion in value, pretty darn good investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why it's frustrating to me to see, the folks on the left, the philanthropists who aren't willing to, act like the venture capitalists whose work they understand, right? You look for a diamond in the rough. Some investments don't have a return, but when you find that diamond, as Musk did with buying Twitter, it can bring you more return on your investment than you can imagine. So the way that these folks ought to be looking for diamonds today is finding young people, half my age. I'm almost 40 now, right? Half my age, find young people who have a good head on their shoulders, who show empathy, who show a strong moral code. Invest in them. Not every one of them is going to turn out to be, the greatest person in the world. And you could always cut it off later. If they prove, to be a bad investment, you cut them off. But keep investing in young people so that 20 years from now, you're not missing out on your Pete Hegseth, who becomes the Secretary of Defense at 40 years old.
Last question, and I want to go back to these pardons. What message does it send to those extremist groups, and especially to those young people you're talking about who might be at a fork in the road in thinking about, as you found yourself decades ago, do I go right or do I go straight? Do I take the path of anger and hatred or empathy and compassion?
What Donald Trump has done with these blanket, again, unconditional and full pardons is he has created a legalization of pro-Trump terrorism. That's what the attack on January 6th was. Terrorism is designed as the use of force or the threat of force for the purpose of political gains against the civilian population, right? That is what happened on January 6th. And by specifically naming the leaders of the Oath Keepers, of the Proud Boys, who were at the center of this seditious conspiracy to end our democracy, to destroy our Constitution, Donald Trump is signaling to angry young men today that you can be a terrorist as long as you're on my side. He is giving permission right now to young, budding terrorists that you can go out and commit pro-MAGA terrorism, and Donald Trump will have your back. And that is frightening, but it's important for us to remember that where the federal government may fail to prosecute, to maintain judgments, we still have the states. And not every governor, not every attorney general throughout the states is a Donald Trump. And we will continue working through state systems of criminal justice to ensure that these folks and civil lawsuits to make sure that these folks are ultimately held responsible for the damage that they've done to individuals and to our Constitution.
Oh, which is exactly, I mean, you're not offering that as a hypothetical. That's what Task Force Butler does. I don't often invoke the, air quotes again, wisdom of the founders, but maybe federalism is going to save us over the next 4 years. Thank goodness we have some strong blue state governors. We actually have an impressive Democratic bench. If we can give some of the younger voices the chance to lead, I'm gonna end on that hopeful note, because I try to every episode. Kris, once again, hate it when you're right. Thanks for coming on. We'll undoubtedly have you back here soon to talk about the next outrage offered up by the Trump administration. Good to see you.
Thanks, brother.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.